Guten Morgen. Check, check. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Guten Morgen. This is Wunderbar. My name is Lucas Welch. I run corporate marketing for HighSpot. We're at booth A3 by the main stage. If you want to continue the conversation after this panel, and I am delighted to be joined by these two gentlemen right here. First to my left is KP Clement. KP, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lucas. Can you hear me well? Great. So my name is Carl-Philippe Clement. Yeah, probably heard. KP is much easier to pronounce. I'm new with RIB software since about a year, a little bit more than a year. I was previously with Bosch, Rexroth, responsible for sales excellence, and previously 16 years with Siemens, which brought me to Germany. What is RIB software, you might ask? This is a software company in the construction industry. As you probably don't know, construction industry is an industry that used software since the 1970s, but is the second least digitalized industry right now after agriculture. So that's a funny fact. So there's a lot of software that we're building for takeoff, for cost estimation, for all contractors, subcontractors, and big builders, as you know, in Germany, whether it's the Autobahn, DB, Max Bögler, name it. There's a lot of them that we use. So, and this is where I am.
And KP, tell us a little bit more about what you do at RIB.
Well, RIB is a company which was consolidating a lot of companies worldwide. I'm responsible to build a sales excellence and customer experience focus. So a lot of things is about improving sales productivity, making sure we have the right sales enablement tools for our salespeople, making sure we use the same language in terms of CRMs, in terms of many things, because we have a lot to consolidate. So this is what I do now.
Sales productivity. I would presume everyone here at the Sales Summit cares a lot about the productivity of your sales teams, something our other panelist, Chris, is very passionate about as well. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about your role in your company?
Thanks, Lucas. Yeah. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from the UK, and I work for a company called Commerce Tools, and I head up revenue enablement there. So I've been doing sales enablement for about 10 years in like fast growth software companies. And yeah, so Commerce Tools, put your hands up. Have you heard of Commerce Tools? German success thing? Okay, cool. So if you're selling online, whether it's like direct to consumer or B2C or B2B, then we empower these enterprise companies that are selling online with software. So think SAP or Oracle, but with a much more modern tech stack. So yeah. Sales enablement, which means I deploy technology like HighSpot to help our sales teams be productive. So deploy kind of training as new salespeople join, or continuous education of our sales teams so that they understand our product, understand how to sell it, how to explain the value of our product, that kind of stuff.
Chris is also a computer scientist. So as we get into the technology component of today's conversation, I'm sure he will help us all make sense of terms like generative artificial intelligence, or thinking about how you want to consolidate your technology stack. We are here to make sense of all the noise in the market right now. As all of you are likely experiencing, as inflation has gone up, as interest rates have gone up, it has become much harder to sell to different businesses. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. And we hope that today we're going to give you some actionable advice, actual things you can go start doing tomorrow or whenever you get back to your respective workplaces, and apply the strategies and the principles and the tips of these fine gentlemen right here in making your teams more productive. Now, there is, as I said, a lot of noise out there, a lot of noise about technology, a lot of noise about what you need to do for your sales team, and probably a lot of noise from your sellers about what they need to be successful. And our hope today is to give you something for each of you that you can go apply to be successful back at your businesses. And so as we think about what Jeff Bezos once famously said, you start with the customer and you work backwards. What that really means is focusing on that customer, their needs, their wants, and their experience, beginning with that first sales call all the way for renewal and retaining them as a customer over the lifetime. And so, KP, you have a passionate point of view about how to focus on the customer from an entire company's perspective. Can you share some of your philosophy with the group here?
I do. One important thing for me about customer experience, well, customer focus, is also considering customer experience. The fact that we say customer focus, you probably remember customer is king. And it used to be the old word, but it's not necessarily true. And being customer focused does not mean doing everything for the customer, everything the way he wants it, and just answering what he wants. And the customer experience and the way we're looking at it from a customer focus perspective is really starting, like Jeff Bezos said, starting from the customer perspective and deriving your process down to the production also of products. So, because right now, as you probably know, in many companies, we work in silos, and everybody's optimizing their processes from bottom up. And whether it's production of a good that will end up at the customer, it's not already planned that if this product come back in the organization, how we're going to follow up with the customer, what's happening with this product and everything. So it's really to start building the customer experience from the customer insights, from what is needed from the customer, and going backward down into the overall organization. This is definitely a challenge that we see in many organizations because, as you know, you have department and everybody, again, is focusing on optimizing themselves, which does not necessarily optimize the customer experience. And this is why I'm so passionate about, because this can make a major breakthrough to improve the customer experience.
Absolutely. That feedback loop on your products and your services, the experience the customer has with the sellers, with the customer support, all around your business, ensuring that you're bringing their experience, their feedback back into the business allows you to not only improve how you're serving them, but give you a much better chance of retaining them over the long term. Now, Chris, if we think about KP's point of view on the entire company's ability or need to focus on that customer experience, in your role, you're trying to enable the seller to really deliver an incredible experience. How are you going about enabling your sales team to start that process off with a great sales experience? And what are you doing differently that you weren't doing a year ago?
Yeah, good question. I think two things spring to mind. Number one, great customer experience in the sales cycle, but almost more importantly, after a deal is signed, the implementation, the customer success side of it, is centering everything you do around the value that the customer or the prospect before they sign will get from using your solution. So we're a software company. It's quite a technical solution, and I think it's very easy to get tied up in features and functions and the like technical nitty-gritty, the differentiation. You have to bring everything back to the business value. How is this going to change the bottom line of that business if they choose your solution? So we've spent a lot of time in the last year really focusing on training our sales teams, yes, but also the post-sales teams to really focus on that value. So what was said, when selling the product actually comes to fruition after it's launched. So number one, I would say value and value selling and all the methodologies around that. And the second thing, which we're doing differently than we were doing a year ago, is we've implemented a call recording technology. So most of our sales calls with customers, most of the customer success calls that happen are recorded into a system, and we're using AI to extract the things like the value statements that we used during the sales cycle to make that whole process easier to focus again on value. So for me, customer experience is all about the kind of business value that the target customer is going to get from deploying your system.
Yeah, the concept first, I think of under-promise and over-deliver so that those customers get not just what they expected, but even more. So that starts right with the seller in that initial conversation. I think the idea that Chris spoke to, using call recording technology, what many call conversation intelligence, can sound a little scary, maybe even a little creepy, but at the end of the day, the ability to really understand what's happening in those conversations day to day, use the power of AI to analyze it so that human beings don't have to, and extract those insights to see whether or not that value, whether or not your sellers are really landing the value of your services and your products, is a very powerful concept. Now, KP, as you think about sellers as value consultants, as people who are there to not only just sell speeds and feeds, if you will, but really the value that your solutions can bring to the business as a whole. How are you going about enabling your team to do exactly that?
Well, there's a few things that we're building right now. There's you probably have this also in most of your sales force in Germany. You need to have the right enablement from your salespeople. Having the right training, they know what to talk from a technology perspective. So for us, it's very important that they clearly understand the construction industry, because it's a different crowd and you need to talk the same language. How do we enable this with training? This, of course, and now we're going to the next step, is how can we support them to be a little bit more productive? So of course, HighSpot, this is definitely something that we're working on to bring more intelligence, more AI to them, in addition to having it through customer 360 degree. Because again, coming back to the customer experience, you need to have this 360. And this 360, if you consider everything which is happening with the customer, you will have some bugs somewhere. You will have some, you've been with Telecom or Vodafone or whoever, and it's never perfect. No product will be perfect. But if you can make sure that you always support your customer along the route, that's the most important part. Not to let them down. So how do we enable this for sellers? This is part of it as well.
That 360-degree concept, it goes back to what KP started with, the feedback loop between your business and the customer, and then the 360 view of the seller and the customer's relationship and their experience, and how you can learn from that to help the seller continue to improve and the customer's experience to continue to improve. Chris, what's your approach to enabling your field, and have you seen any tactics recently that are really helping your sellers be more productive?
Yeah, selling commerce tools is quite a tough thing. It's quite a big shift for our customers to go from what they were using before to something that's very, very modern. It needs a big change in philosophy for that company. They're used to using software that was written 20, 25 years ago, and everything needs to change within the business to kind of like adopt this new agile philosophy to really deliver the value I was talking about before. So how we enable our sellers to do that well is to really understand the value that customers that have already onboarded have got from the product and the process and the change that they went through. So if we get an idea that the customer is not a good fit, that it's not a right time to make that shift, we say that. We're very transparent and we say, look, we might not be the right solution for you now, knowing that in a few years' time, when they have gone through a transition like that, or they're ready to go through a transition like that, they'll come back to us because we gave them that trusted advice. So it's very much about kind of being very open and transparent and really understanding where they are as a business, where their commerce needs are today, and making sure that there's a good fit. So less about sort of productivity in that answer and more about kind of just making sure you're really, truly listening to the customer's needs.
And not every customer is going to be the right customer for your business. In fact, if you overpromise and underdeliver, it's highly likely that that customer may churn, and then you've lost the opportunity to eventually acquire them when they were ready for whatever your product or service is and turn them into a lifetime customer. I think that's a really important concept, Chris, the idea of to be a trusted advisor, recognizing when a given prospect may not be ready or the value doesn't align, so that when the time comes, as you said, they're going to remember that you treated them with respect and transparency to set up a long-term trusting relationship. KP, anything you'd add to Chris's recommendations about how to set sellers up to be true value consultants?
No, not really, because it is really important to, well, you probably know you're all in sales or related to sales, and the most important thing is listen to your customer. It's not about a sales pitch, it's not about selling what you have to sell, it's really about listening to their needs and making sure that you have an added value. So I would keep it as simple as this.
Absolutely. Now, what's not simple right now is the technology landscape. There are so many different technologies. You know, Chris has already spoken to call recording, also known as conversation intelligence, which, depending on GDPR and how your business operates, may be a tough thing to implement. And there's a lot of noise about AI, what it means, what it's ready for, what it's not. And certainly there's plenty of vendors here who are going to tell you absolutely need their technology as well. And so our goal in this part of the conversation is to give you a little sense making and try to break down some of the core key technologies you need so that you can think about everything from consolidation to save money and make your business more efficient to maybe that one tool that might be the next on your purchase list. Chris, I'd like to start with you. If you could only have a few technologies, and I mean the absolute minimum, what would they be and why?
Yeah, as you said earlier, I'm a bit of a techie kind of product person by background, and I've ended up in sales enablement. So this is my favorite topic because I love tools, and I would probably buy more than a few if I was allowed to, which I'm not allowed to, obviously.
You're not allowed to right now.
So the whole sort of consolidation thing is really, really top of mind and kind of working out what is neat. No, number one, I'll go back to it. I think that in my line of business, in sales enablement and how I think about sales productivity, the number one tool is conversational intelligence. So recording calls, getting emails into a system alongside those calls, like tracking activity. We use HighSpot, so tracking activity when customers are engaged with content that's been shared with them by our sales reps. Kind of building this model of what's actually happening in the sales cycle, not relying on an account executive to update the system of record, the CRM, manually. Actually recording the reality of what's happening is the number one tool for me. So we call that conversational intelligence. I think it's much bigger than that. I think it's contemporary. It's the future of selling. I'm a huge passionate advocate of it. I know it has challenges in countries where privacy is of a concern. I think as we say in England, the horse has bolted. Like it's gone. Like this is the way in every industry we will sell. It will be expected that salespeople have a recorder on their call. And it's not necessarily the kind of, everybody thinks, oh, this is going to be about like spying and inspection and things like that. There's too much content created immediately as soon as you turn this on for anyone to really be able to go in and kind of have that level of inspection. It's more about the productivity of the sales rep being able to listen properly to the customer. KP already said it. The most important skill in selling is listening. If you're trying to take notes, especially if your solution is quite technical, quite complicated, and you want to be this trusted advisor, you don't want to have to be taking notes. So having this thing that you trust to keep notes for you and to pull out the most important things from the call, from the email, to not rely on your own memory. Like for the last 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, information is being pulled out by AI to make you a more effective seller. That's the number one tool. The second tool is like a single platform for being able to find the content you need to sell. Again, especially if your solution is quite technical, you want to be able to find the right selling materials to share. So having something like that and the ability to share it with your customers digitally. So the concept of a digital room or a digital sales room is really, really important. So that would be our second platform. That would be a HighSpot, something that combines content, training, and the ability to share. Obviously, you need a CRM, right? A system of record, that goes without saying. I don't know what the fourth one would be. Probably something about kind of driving pipelines. So like engagement tools. So
what about a telephone?
Actually, that's what I wrote down. Yeah. So, but
you still need a telephone.
You still do need a telephone, but then I would put next to the telephone kind of your outreach tool, your email tool, your video, like creating a compelling video from your salesperson to leave in the inbox, and hopefully 30 seconds, 60 seconds of kind of like, hey, it's Chris. I tried to get in touch with you today. Here's how I fit. Making stuff that's really tailored to the customer. So a suite of tools, I would say, alongside the telephone for engaging with customers at the top of the funnel. So they'd be my four things.
All right, so we have conversation intelligence, an enablement platform. HighSpot can tell you a little bit about that. We have a telephone and other outreach tools from email to things that can queue up cadences of follow-up and engagement for your sellers. And of course, a CRM, because you need to put your customer database somewhere. KP, anything you would add, change, or delete from that list?
Actually, I would start with the CRM, because for me, that would be the base. But the very important thing would be, and I think that's a dream for many of us, to have a CRM which is simply simple. Built simply so that you create usage and the people are happy to use it, because we have a tendency to always complicate things, right? Let's over-engineer it left, there, and right there, and then we lose the usability. This is definitely the first thing. And the second thing is about everything related. You said phone system. It's about chat. It's about any interaction with the customer. How do you bring this together to keep it simple, so you can have this 360 view of the customer? So there are many tools that exist, many CRM that offers different things. And last but not least, so that would be my third one, would be a sales enablement. So HighSpot, as an example, that we're starting to work with, but everything related as well as conversational intelligence and AI, because it's a matter of time. It's not if we want AI, part of sales. It's about the sooner you can get AI, because the others will get AI. Now, how we do it, that's the next thing.
Yeah, it is. And that's actually what we're going to talk about next. So AI can be scary. And for me, sometimes the capabilities that it offers creep me out a little bit. And it also is something that, if, as you said, the horse is bolted, is that the phrase? Okay, I want to use that next time I'm in the UK. I believe the horse has bolted on AI, because if you don't implement it in some way to help your sellers be more efficient or productive, your competitor is going to. And then your competitor can outmaneuver you, because they're going to deliver a better customer experience at less cost. And so we want to try to break down some of the core concepts where AI is ready today, and that you can explore thinking about implementing it now, and where it may not be ready for prime time, particularly in more compliance-heavy or privacy-sensitive industries, to make sure that we're giving you advice that you can really use. So KP, I'd like to start with you. What is one AI use case you think is ready for prime time right now?
Well, I believe one of this conversational AI is definitely one. And like I said, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, because you're going to gain so much productivity. You're going to have your sellers that can drive minutes, that can write minutes of meeting immediately after coming out of this conversational AI. Same thing, writing what is to follow up, writing follow-up emails, and all of these. So these are, for me, the right AI, or the next generation AI that we need, that is happening, which is coming very fast. There are many challenges. We know in Europe, in Germany, GDPR is definitely a major one. We do also change management in our own organization, which is going to be a challenge. Let's be very honest with ourselves, because we don't want everybody to become lazy, our salespeople to become lazy and to say, hey, let's rely on AI. Everything is great. They do everything for me. Then you will lose a lot on the qualification of your people. And this is scary for a lot of people, a lot of sales managers. So how do you manage this change is key. Because you know you have kids, right? Our kids, or my kids, when I ask them, hey, can you calculate me the tax on 150 euros? 19%? Guess what they do? They get their phone out.
Ask ChatGPT for that answer?
Yeah, maybe not, but they get their phone out, you know. To calculate mentally, they have lost this very often. Or if you give them a roadmap, good luck. Give them a roadmap. I mean, they have no idea how to use it. They rely on technology too much. So this is definitely something that people are scared in sales organization to say, hey, our seller will rely too much. And this is the thing that we need to look forward. AI is great, can bring a lot. It will not replace human, but how do we use it as co-pilot is going to be very key. And this is one of them.
Yeah, augmentation, I think, is an important concept, right? To KP's point, the robots aren't coming for our jobs, but if used wisely, they can help make us more effective. And AI itself can really help your sellers deliver a better customer experience by taking away some of the manual work that is keeping them from spending more time learning and listening and delivering a consultative experience. Chris, what's your perspective? One use case that our audience could think about right away.
Yeah, I'll take a step back first. I think where this like augmentation really kicks in, you've probably all experienced this. I think this is going to revolutionize every single industry, starting with a blank sheet of paper. Or if you're a software developer, starting with a blank cursor in your software development environment, or if you're an accountant, starting with a blank spreadsheet. Having something blank in front of you is a very difficult place to start. What AI does, in my opinion, is it solves that blank sheet of paper problem. So in sales and thinking about sales productivity, if you've got information, right, you have a CRM system, you've got a lot of information about that account or that opportunity already stored. What's the next most impactful thing I can do to drive revenue from that account is a question that AI will help us solve for. And it solves that blank sheet of paper problem. So that's the use case for me. Is whether it's about what's the follow-up email after the call that was recorded and transcribed and the value taken out of that transcription by AI, or whether it's who's the next person in the account to try to reach out to, and here's some suggested messages for that persona in that industry for your specific product, because the AI model has learned about your specific product and the value that it delivers to that type of customer. So yeah, for me, it's kind of all about just imagine that you have one system. You talked about how CRM, and let's say what we mean. Salesforce is a nightmare to use. It's horrible. I don't know a single salesperson never come up to me and said, I love how you've
I love
implemented,
using Salesforce.
I love how you've implemented the sales process workflow in Salesforce with those tabs. Even, it's just not usable. So imagine a system where you have a to-do list, and all that information is exposed using AI to say, these are the next 10 most valuable tasks you can do with your book of business. And I think it's possible. I don't think we're far away from that. So I guess I'm quite optimistic. I'm very much despite everything that's happened in the
believer.
world, I'm still a tech kind of optimist person, even after 20 years of seeing lots of crap happen. But I think that's where we're at with sales and sales productivity. Actually finding signal in all of this noise that we have in our CRM systems and actually understanding what the next action step is.
Yeah, that next best action concept can just, again, first to response, right? On your initial lead, it's often the first to respond to a buyer who's looking at different services and products. The first vendor to get back to them, often the one that gets the conversation. Same as the first one to be quick on that follow-up with the right level of insight or discovery or value to offer. That next best action is a really valuable concept where I agree with you, Chris. I think AI is ready today to help sellers do exactly that. Now, to bring it into your business, it's going to require some change management, regardless of if it's conversation intelligence, more advanced AI use cases like KP and Chris just described, whatever it may be, you've got to go through some change management, and that can be difficult, and that can create barriers in your organization. KP, how do you recommend this group approaches the type of change management needed to just bring in one new technology, let alone multiple?
Well, onboarded people is quite simple. The change management which will be needed for anything which is AI, like any other tool, onboard your people and start from the customer perspective. It's about the value that you can deliver to your customer. It's about personalization that you want to deliver to your customer. And after that, it's about value for your salespeople, for your sales organization. And then it's the value for the rest of the organization. So again, the change management start with the customer in the head and going down below. That sounds really easy. It's the most complicated thing to sell within a company. It's really a tough thing, but for me, that's the most important. And get the people on board, always.
Yeah. Bring them along for the ride.
They should be part of the solution.
Indeed, and I want to be part of the solution of getting you to your next session, as we have about 37 seconds left of this one. We appreciate everyone spending time with us today, hopefully from the core components of the technology stack, to KP's points about bringing people along for the ride and really thinking through how you approach change management, to at the outset how we discuss the idea of value selling and helping yourselves be true consultants, and even to Chris's point, considering advising a buyer not to partner with you right away if you don't see that there's going to be true value realization. We hope these concepts were helpful for all of you. Thank you for joining us and dealing with my English. We will be at the HighSpot booth A3 right across from the main stage entry if you'd like to continue the conversation. I'll give the little last slide with the QR code that you can scan for more information. I hear there's an award, by the way, for best session, so clearly I think we walked away with that. KP and Chris, thank you so much for your time. Carolina, I'll give it back to you. Thank you, everyone.
If there's an award for the suits, you will win for sure.
You'll at least remember the suit.
Thank you,
Dankeschön.
guys.